Hello and welcome to this video. We're on the rapid road to improvement, playing rapid games on Lichess server. We're playing kamuikamoe, and we're going to play d5 in response to an immediate f4 in the Sicilian. And we can pre-move the recapture. Rated 1973, so quite a big rating difference here. And we have the tempo on the queen. I think the queen can choose. Maybe I have to come back to d6 here, but I don't want to spend a long time thinking about that. So I'm going to bring the queen back to d8 here. And I quite like pinning the knight now. Okay, and don't know the theory in this line. Bishop c4. e6 seems sensible to blunt the bishop, develop my dark squared bishop. And we want to play something like knight f6, bishop e7, knight c6. That's our plan. Knight f6 now looks good. The bishop is blocked by its own f pawn, so we don't need to worry about the pin. This isn't a tempo because we have bishop, so I think knight c6 looks good here. But some potential for the knight to hop into d4 and attack the pinned piece. That would probably be good. That might force an exchange by the black bishop e3 for the knight, bringing the pawn in. Okay, so white's handled that by pinning the knight that was threatening, but so on the plus side for that, that's a tempo for me because that bishop's already moved. So unless I should worry specifically about the doubled pawns, I think I just develop my my bishop. Now the question is bishop e7 or bishop d6. Bishop d6 could be then followed by queen c7 to hit the f pawn. In fact, we could play queen c7 first, both to defend the knight and also to then, yeah, let's try that queen c7 and then we'll play, the idea will be to play bishop d6 in one go and then hit the f pawn. Okay, so I'm fine with my position. I think it looks good, looks solid. Okay, so now the castle, and I think now bishop d6. We want a castle kingside with our king, most likely. We might consider a queenside castle though. Okay, now the exchange. So I'm going to take with the queen unless there's some reason not to. So queen c6. Might run into knight e5. So let's have a look at that. Queen c6, knight e5, bishop takes d1, knight takes c6. Then we can choose between taking the c2 pawn or recapturing the knight. So that looks fine. So we're going to go queen c6, keep our pawn structure intact. And then looking to get castled. Okay, so white wants to resolve this issue of the knight. And if I don't take the knight, let's say for example if I go bishop here, then we have g4 and then the knight can hop into e5. So I think we just need to take this and we might exchange on f3. Pretty sure black would never be worse in this line. So I'm gonna exchange queens. Now my idea is to castle long here. I'll get my rook on the d file, on the half open d file. I have to be a little bit concerned about knight b5 in that line. Let's just think about that. Do I want to take a tempo to stop knight d5? If knight e4 we can capture and then play rook d8. That looks okay. The alternative is knight d5 immediately, but then knight b5. So I think we want to take a tempo out. Let's do that here. And my plan is to play castle long here. I think my king, yeah. So I think here castling long. And probably going to exchange a knight if it lands on this square. Okay. Now, knight here is definitely an option to fork these two pieces. It encourages an exchange. I think I want to have a rook on e8 before doing that, because I will want to contest the e file. And that's a d4, so that's an attempt to get some advantage in the center. So let's just see what our options here. We play knight here. If takes here and takes here, so knight here, knight takes. There's actually an interesting, let's just have a look at this. So knight here, knight takes d5, e takes d5. Now if pawn takes bishop, I've got this idea of playing rook takes c3, and then we play bishop c5, and that rook is pinned. That's the idea. So if knight here and d takes c5, then we can play knight takes c3. If you capture here, then we just recapture on c5, and if you capture on d6, I can play rook d6. That's no good though, because so knight takes. If you take here, I can just move. Yeah, I think that's okay. But what about the last thing to look at is knight takes d5. Knight takes d5, e takes d. Yeah, that was the one we looked at. Okay, let's play it here. So we'll find out if I'm right here. So this is relying on this pin on this diagonal. If I'm right here. D takes c5, knight takes bishop. If you take this, then we have this capture with the pin. And there's no way to stop that pin. Now, so the alternative is to play knight takes d5, and then after ed, that's the alternative. We're still relying on that pin. Knight takes d5, e takes d5. Okay, he's actually moved out of the way. So now I think we want to, my plan was to just take the knight here. Let's just have a look at that. Knight takes here. If then dc, what have we got? I can come here and take the bishop. All right, so let's see here. If takes, okay, so you just take here immediately. Now the idea would be to think about playing c5 here. Excuse me, c4 to try and get keep a positional advantage. If we take, that's going to be helping white a lot. So I think we are going to play c4 here, dampening down the bishop. If d5 comes, we just take it, and then in theory, in the long term, we may have some ideas associated with bishop a3, bishop e2 to hit this weak c pawn. I think black is okay. f5 may come now. We may be able to answer f5 with e5. That's pretty interesting. And the other idea for white is just to keep it simple and play rook e3. And then we may want to double on the e file. It's hard to see. Okay, so a4 from white to clamp down on the b5 idea. Now I think bishop c7 could be good here to open the d file for the rook and then come into a5. So let's play that move. d5 is impossible, we just capture. f5, I think we can play e5. Or capture and play f6, there's also possibilities. Capture. Okay. That's interesting. So why can black not play bishop here? You can play that, but this pawn is defended. Okay. So what about d5 now? d5 could be good as well. Black wants to play, white wants to play rook b4 and hit the c pawn. So the only way of stopping that is actually to play, we can either play rook d5 and then play b5 in answer to rook b4, or we can play bishop a5. Bishop a5 looks good here because it stops this move and hits the c pawn. So let's give that a try. Time is now the main problem for me. My position's a little bit passive, but I think it's solid enough. So I think the other option is for me to play an idea like rook d6, b6. That could work to try and exchange off a pair of rooks. I think my position is solid here. D5 is still no good. F5 is the other answer, but we can maybe have to play E5 in answer to F5. That opens up. Okay, so the bishop comes here to defend. So I think we just play here rook D5 to stop the F5 threat. Okay, king. Now we could think about, can we play F6 and E5? F6, E5, takes, takes. That in theory works. There's also a potential pin here. Let's see. I think I'm going to play rook e7 to protect my pawns. If the f file gets opened up, then I'm already protecting my pawns. And then we may be able to try this f6 e5 idea. So f6 e5 takes, 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 takes. That's, I think, fine for me. Okay, so what does that do? Does that do much? That actually means that this pawn is pinned. So for example, in some lines where I take rook takes d4, the pawn is the bishop is not protected, excuse me. So I'm going to play this f6 idea. Okay, so my plan is to just play this now. Takes, 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 and we're trying to break things open. So if white plays f5, I'm fairly happy. We can actually win. Okay, so now I have an issue here. Okay. I have to be a bit careful because my b7 pawn is hanging. I think this pin still, now the bishop is okay. So takes, takes, takes. We're not losing material there, and I am threatening to take this now. No, I'm not. I'm not at all. I'm not at all. I'm going to need to play something like b6 first. b6, okay. Yeah, let's play b6 here. This protects that. And then we want to play king here, I think, to protect the rook. Okay, so you decided to play f5. I think we want to play king d6. Now this rook is protected. That pin is nice. Okay, that is nice. So okay, let's come back out of that pin. Takes, takes, we're still okay. The threat now is to play takes and win a pawn. So I think you have to take this. Are there any intermediate moves? I don't think so. You can't take the pawn on e5, that's clear. Okay. Now what about just pushing this on? This is... The other option is king here. And we may give up that pawn. Tricky, very tricky. Where do we want to get to with that? Do we want to push this on, or is that creating a weakness? I don't know. It's very hard for you to get this rook back in play. This is really out of play here. But okay, we'll just move the piece back out of play. I think in an ideal world I want king d6, king c5. But the time is the problem. So let's come back here. Oh, no, that's still okay. We've got this under control. So I think I want king c5 here. Okay, that was the move I planned to play. I don't see any way of taking this pawn though. Okay. So we want to try and stay on white squares here. There's no entry point for my king. Let's come back there because there's a discovered attack there. This rook is stuck though. It will go to, it can go there. Yeah, okay, it does. But there's no threat here, so let's just, if we double on the d file, that's also another option. This means you can't play, okay. I was about to take this c3 pawn thinking it was pinned, but isn't it pinned anyway? I think it is, because if you take with the rook I take the bishop, and if you take with the bishop I take the rook on d1. So this I think is a blunder. Now the question is whether I've got enough time to win from here. What are you going to play something like? Okay, so we take this, pre-move the recapture, and then I want to play something like king c5 here, b5, b4, etc. We just want to keep an eye on these pawns here. Okay, let's play that now. We've got a check on d2, which is juicy as well. Let's try and get that in. Although, beware. I need to be wary of this. Okay, let's keep things solid. And stop the entry of the white rook. We're going to try and play. Okay, let's get on this pawn. We're going to answer the check with king c5. Now this pawn is available, but if you take it, the c2 pawn drops. I don't think you can let the c2 pawn drop. I'm going to play rook here. My next move is rook h2 if you allow me. So if you defend the pawn, I'm going rook h2, and if you don't defend the pawn, I'm taking it. I'm trying to push my c pawn down the board. I have 30 seconds for the rest of the game. Is not good. Okay, let's just take this. I'm losing this pawn. Now we're taking this pawn. But this is with check, okay. So I'm going to have to get on that. Yeah, you're going to go king here. Whoa, really? This is bad. I don't think that can be right. Why do I want to check you here? Check on this square to take the... You're losing a rook now. And this one. Okay, I think the rest requires no commentary. I'm just making a new queen and then checkmating. I've got plenty of time. I can pre-move all the way. And check and mate. Whew. All right, exciting, very exciting. All right, so we're just going to have a quick look at the game. So the idea here, what I played was knight d5, and my idea, just going to see if it makes sense here, was that if we took this piece and then played here, if white takes this knight, then we have the bishop c5, the recapture, pinning the rook. Now, what happens there? What's white's best plan there? Probably you just want to make sure that this rook isn't getting in. So, but it's hard to prevent that. You might, I'm just wondering if you play, You can't play knight B1 because after takes, we then have a fork, so that doesn't work. What else? You could try king. King here may work, and now after takes, here. And I mean, this endgame is probably a draw. Oh no, what am I talking about? We've won the exchange in this line, haven't we? So we're comfortably ahead here. So okay, so this line is fine. So what does white have that's better than that? Well, one idea is to not take this, but rather to take this. That's the expectation. Now, if black plays rook takes pawn, of course, we're just going to be a piece down. So the idea would be to improve that. So let's see if we can play knight c2. We're hitting the rook. Let's try rook. If rook here, then the knight is getting out. But what about if rook d1 and the knight is getting out of b4? So the question then I think becomes, pawns are equal. So the question becomes, let's say after something like rook d1, is this pawn a weakness or a strength? I think the knight can defend from e4. I think this pawn might be annoying. So we'll just have a look at that position now just to see whether this is good for white or black. Yeah, it's saying really good for white actually. So this is the idea behind the knight d5. So let's just go back actually to that point where we played knight d5. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's a little better for white. It's recommending knight takes d5. Bishop f2 was the move played. Okay, now this is white's mistake here. And now it wants to push on with c4 and says that knight takes c3, which is what I played, is a lot better for white. Let's just have a look at that then, why that is. So yeah, for some reason, I think both of us had sort of chess blindness here and just forgot that rook takes knight is possible, and that even pins the c pawn. So we're actually losing a pawn there. So this whole variation was not very good for me. I think both of us had missed this. It's interesting that he instantly captured back here, and now black is better with this c4 plan that we had to fix these pawns. So that's interesting. Let's just go back to the point before I played knight d5 to this moment here. Now black is actually better here, so that's interesting. So my instinct that black's position's fine is right. This is a bit discoordinated, this rook. This bishop isn't that great. It's kind of blocking things in a bit, but it wants to get this advantage by playing c4. So let's just look at that briefly. I think the idea is that once we've got c4, this knight makes it hard for white to play c3 and defend this pawn, and there's some pressure on the d file, so that with the plan of maybe bishop c7, bishop b6, we can put some pressure on this pawn. Our knight is pretty good here. It's not a big advantage, but it's a little advantage. So let's see when. Let's just also check where white went wrong opening wise. Okay, so at this point here, the most common move after the opening is knight f6 rather than recapturing with the queen. Knight f6 seems to be better. I think I did know that, but went for the queen recapture. Knight c3, hitting the queen. Queen d8 is the most popular. Knight f3. Bishop g4 is what I played. That's actually not coming up as a move at all. That's because it allows bishop b5 check immediately. And we either have to bring the bishop back or play knight c6, pinning our pawn. So again, something we both missed. Bishop c4, and then we saw how he moved this again. E6, e3, knight f6. Still wants bishop b5 check here. Bishop e3, knight c6. Now he pinned. Okay, it's suggesting knight d5, queen c7, castles, bishop d6, and then this exchange allowing black, I think maybe letting black off a little bit. h3 takes, takes, and around here it's basically pretty much equal. But it does want to. I was thinking about keeping the king in the center here. Let's just pause here. Okay, I've just taken us forward a few moves. Basically, it's at this position where white opened up with d4, and it seems to be this seems to be that the Stockfish really doesn't like this because it allows this plan of c4. We'd have to look, for some time to work out exactly what it wants black to do. C4, bishop f2, bishop b4, and taking on c3. So I think the idea is, if I play c5, why cannot let's just have a look at this then. Let's look at this c4. Why can black not play bishop d2 to cover the knight and stop me messing up black's pawns? What's wrong with that now? Okay, it seems to be very good for black. Why is that? I think it's just the d pawn. Suddenly the d pawn is hit and there's no way to protect it. Okay, so that's the reason why this line is bad for white. You have to play bishop f2 here, and then we can either play b5 or bishop b4, and then I think it wants to take on c3 and mess up the white pawns. It's in a similar sort of position to the one we had, but in the line that we took, white missed that he could just play rook takes c3, and then he's a lot better. Okay, I just wanted to take it forward to this position because this is very interesting that white allowed this tactic with bishop takes c3, but somehow white is still better after this. So let's just see why that is. So the correct move here is rook takes c4 check. That's nice. Rook takes c4. If rook takes c4, rook takes d8. And if rook takes, and we have to play rook takes c4 because otherwise our rook gets taken. So that's a tactic that both of us missed. Not easy to see actually, all those pins. When after white played this move, now black is winning, it says, which is what we thought. I don't know how smooth it was. I suspect at some point later white had chances. I'm sure I messed up here. Let's just have a look. Yeah, I've given away a lot of my advantage by letting these pawns. Let's just see here. Takes. Okay, black is a little better here. Okay, no, quite a bit better. Rook takes g7. b4 was the best move here. The check gives away a lot of advantage. King takes. Best move is I took this. And then at f6. Yes, that's good. Then the correct move is d6. And now white is winning. Oh no, okay, it's still close. f7, rook f1 is obviously forced. Rook takes h7. And it's basically saying this is a draw now. So white obviously went wrong by, I think, allowing this pawn to get so close here. g5, c2. And what should he play here? It's wanting white to give up the f pawn in order to get the rook back to stop the c pawn. Instead, yeah, this is just a bit of an oversight here. That allows an easy win for black. But it was a draw here. So somewhere between getting this strong advantage here, I messed up. So let's just see where that was. Okay, so it was very shortly after. So big advantage here. b5 doesn't gives away some of the advantage. I think b5 is wrong because it gives white an a pawn. There's no need to do that. We can just penetrate here with rook to d2. Let's just have a look at that then as an alternative. The reason I didn't play that was that I thought, okay, king to e3 and then takes the e pawn. Now, if here, what happens is, if king takes this pawn, why is this so good? Why is black doing so well here? Wants to play rook f2, and okay, it wants to block this, and now the check, yeah. king here, and then taking this c2 pawn, and then the c2 pawn is quite advanced. I think that's the idea. That must be the idea. And the central king of the central position of the king is not great. Okay. Well, that's probably enough analysis for this video. Thank you for watching, and it was a nice win against a high rated opponent. So we'll be back soon for more rapid games.